You know, if you've ever told anybody a story or sat and listened to folks tell stories, you know how easy it is to get your stories mixed up. Well, a friend of mine recently told me a story about when he was a much younger man. This was a time when he was looking at the different careers and opportunities to pursue, and he thought at that time that he was hearing God calling him to become a preacher. And he knew that was very important, so he didn't want to leave it unexplored. So he put some feelers out in the community, and sure enough, a church called him to come in and interview about the possibility of becoming their pastor. Well, on the day of the interview, the committee brought the young man into the church conference room to start the interview, and they sat him down on the far end of the table. The chairman sat up here on the front. The committee members were on either side, and the chairman started the interview by asking he said, "Now, young man, this is very important. You do know your Bible, right?" And my friend said, "Well, yes, sir. Fact is, I know my Bible very well." And so he asked him a second question. He said, "Do you know the Old Testament better, or do you know the New Testament better?" And my friend said, "Why, it really doesn't matter, sir. I know the Old Testament just as well as I know the New Testament. Sir, I know my Bible very well." Well, he asked him another question. He said, "Do you know all the stories and all the parables in the Bible?" And my friend said, "Oh, yeah, I know all the stories. I know all the parables in the Bible. Sir, I know my Bible very well." Well, the chairman invited my friend. He said, "Now, young man, why don't you take a minute then and tell us the parable of the Good Samaritan." My friend said, "I would love to." He stood up and he began his story like this. He said, "There was a man of the Pharisees named Nicodemus who journeyed to Jericho by night, and he fell among the stony ground, and the thorns rose up and choked him nearly half to death. And he asked, 'What shall I do?' 'I shall arise and go to my father's house.' And so he arose and climbed up into the sycamore tree. And the next day, Solomon and his wife, Gomorrah, came by and carried him down to the ark for Moses to take care of him. And as he was passing through the eastern gate, he caught his hair on a limb, and he hung there for 40 days and 40 nights. And afterwards he hungered, and the ravens came and fed him. And the next day 3 wise men came and carried him down to Nineveh. And when they arrived at Nineveh, they found Delilah sitting upon the wall. And he cried out, 'Chunk her down, boys.' And they asked, 'How many times shall we chunk her down? Unto 7 times?' And he said, 'Nay, but unto 70 times 7. And so they chunked her down 490 times, and she burst asunder in their midst. And they picked up 12 baskets of her fragments. And they asked, 'In the resurrection, whose wife shall she be?' And then he sat down, and the room became very quiet. And the chairman looked down this side of the table at these boys. He turned and looked down this side of the table at the committee members. Finally, he just scooted his chair back and said, 'Boys, we better hire him. He may be young, but he sure knows his Bible.'" You know, I bet that chairman was a Baptist deacon, don't y'all?